Okay, so we're still working with week 22 through 25, and I thought we'd do some work with the Lolasana, Gomukasana, Simhasana, little sections of this particular sequence. This is also the week where full Padmasana, or the weeks where full Padmasana appears. I'm still myself coming back to full Padmasana, but I chose to sit in Swastikasana at the beginning just because it's a little bit closer to the work of Padmasana. You can sit though. Virasana will also be great for this sequence because it requires a lot of calf meshing. All right, so press your feet down into the floor and energetically lift your ankles up, and you should feel that lift come all the way up into the chest. Lengthen up through the side ribs and roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit so you really feel that chest get well lifted and broad. Keeping the chest well lifted and broad, fold your palms together at your heart. From your elbows, extend through the wrist bones and press the heel of the hand firmly together. And push your thumb into your sternum and lift your sternum up into your thumb and continue to lift through all of your fingers, but particularly through the ring finger. And as you do that, you should feel your trapezius muscles release down away from the neck. For me, when I feel that movement downward of the trapezius muscles, it's just a little signal that my eyes tend to naturally close at that point. Okay, but if they aren't, go ahead and close your eyes. And turn your awareness to that internal space, that inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. Use your exhalations to take your awareness there. As you inhale, make yourself taller from the tailbone all the way up through the head. Keep that height, and as you exhale, move the prana, the energy of the breath, outward towards your side ribs and armpits. Inhale, make yourself tall. Keep that height. Exhale, make yourself broad. Inhale, extend yourself. Exhale, expand yourself. Use the breath to create that more palpable awareness of that inner landscape of you. And then inhabit that inner landscape with your mind. From that space, let's chant 3 Oms together. Follow that sound with your mind. Follow the reverberation of the sound with your mind. And from that space, inhale once more. Keep your chest well lifted and broad as you bring your chin down to your chest. Keeping your chest well lifted and broad, bring your hands down to your thighs with your palms up. And raise your head and open your eyes. And lengthen up again through the side ribs and stretch your arms out in front of you. Interlace your fingers. Keep your elbows as straight as you can. Push the top thumb into the bottom thumb and turn your fingers toward Parvatasana, or as a preparation for Sarvangasana too. Okay. Suck your shoulder bones in. And as you reach your arms up, when you get to that 45-degree angle with your arms and your torso, then you can let the shoulder bones come up and the trapezius release down. Lengthen up through the armpits, lift up through the sides of the ribs, extend from the elbows through the wrist bones, and flip your fingers toward the knuckles, go up toward the ceiling, and then put your hands in Shirshasana position, pulling your elbows in closer together. And use your hands in the back of the neck and lift the back of the neck up a little bit. And then as you exhale, turn and rotate to the right. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. Planting some seeds for future Parsha Shirshasanas. As you inhale, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. One more time, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. And as you come back to the center, lift up on your skull and make yourself taller. Pull your elbows in. And then as you exhale, turn and rotate to the left. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. One more time, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. Lengthen and turn. And come all the way back to the center. Release your hands down. Switch the cross of your fingers. Stretch your arms out. Keep your elbows straight. Put the opposite thumb on top and really push the top thumb with the, bottom thumb with the top thumb as you move your palms toward the floor and then toward the screen. Then suck your shoulder bones in, reach the arms up and let the shoulder bones come along with the arms after you pass through that 45-degree angle. Suck your elbows in and extend through the wrist bone. Move your arms back behind your ears. Make yourself nice and tall. And then switch the flip of your wrist so that the knuckles go down up toward the ceiling. Keep the height in the sides of the torso and bring your hands around to the back of your head and pull your elbows in. Use your hands on the back of the head to keep a little bit of length between the cervical vertebra. And as you exhale, turn and rotate to the left. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. Inhale, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. And one more time, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. And come all the way back to the center. Release your hands down. Stretch your legs out into Tadandasana, staff pose. Join your big toes together and spread your other toes wide apart. From the little toe side of the foot, draw up into your outer hips and really engage the quadricep muscles so they lift away from the knees. Really important action to do with all these bent leg poses that we'll be working on. All right, then switch the cross of your legs the opposite way. There's also the pose Padmasana with this arm position in this sequence here too. So we're practicing that. Turn the feet up toward the ceiling, turn the calves up toward the ceiling. Then you can use your hands to turn the thighs from the inside out. Again, all of those actions basically come into play when we do Padmasana. Okay? So Swastikasana, the feet are underneath the thighs. Okay? And eventually Padmasana, the feet are on top of the thighs. Right? But it's just a progression from getting the feet from underneath the legs up to the tops of the legs. And there are lots of tricks that one can do to help that journey for people who don't have that capacity naturally. It's not our primary focus today, but some of the things we're doing today help with that. Okay. All right, one more time. So stretch your arms out in front of you. This time hook one thumb over the other thumb. Hold the thumbs against each other and stretch through your ring fingers and suck the shoulder bones in. Okay. And press the feet down, lift the ankles up, continue that lift through the side ribs and lift up. And letting each spine to let the shoulder bones lift up after you start out. Start out with them in the socket, but it's just a kind of natural lift as you lift and go by the head. The shoulder bones go up, but the trapezius muscles release down. Keep pulling your thumbs against each other, then hook your fingers for Ushavasana and put your hands behind your head. Pull your elbows in. And that's also a Schultz action, right? Which is we've worked on in previous weeks. This time, turn the opposite way first. So you're going to exhale and turn and rotate to the left. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Make yourself tall. Exhale, turn and rotate. And really feel where that rotation comes in the bottom part of your rib cage, your shoulder blades. And that really is the same place when you're twisting on your head that you'll primarily feel the turn coming from. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head and turn. So even if you can't do Padmasana, turning to the side, you can have an awareness and a knowledge of where that works in your body. Right? So this pose gives you some awareness of Padmasana. Right? And then turn and rotate to the opposite side. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Keep your elbows in a little bit closer. A tendency is for them to go out wide, but you want to practice it more like it's Padmasana. So that means the elbow should be about shoulder width apart, not wider than your shoulders. Lengthen up again. Exhale, turn and rotate. Then come all the way back to the center. Bring your hands down. You may not remember which thumb you did, but just put whichever one feels like it needs more stretch. Pull your thumbs against each other and stretch through all of your fingers, but particularly the ring finger. When you stretch through that ring finger, it really brings the tricep muscle in closer to the bone. It's like your shoulder bones in. Then as you lift up, go ahead and let your shoulder bones come up away from your ears and the trapezius muscle release down. And interlace your fingers, hopefully the opposite way. Again, turn to the left first. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. One more time, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. And pull yourself back to the center, using your fingers behind your head to lift up through the spine. Check back in at your elbows, make sure they haven't gone out wide, and then turn and rotate yourself around. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, turn and rotate. And swing yourself all the way back to the center. Release your hands. Stretch your legs out into Tadandasana. Join your big toes together. Spread your other toes wide apart. Lift up from the quadriceps through the inner thighs and put your hands down beside you on whatever you're sitting on. Press down through those heel of the hands. Press through the heel of the hands and lift up through the armpits. And roll your shoulder bones back so the collarbones get broad. Shoulder blades in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit. Coming into a nice Dandasana. And bend your knees. Come onto your hands and your knees for some Gomukasana. Spread your palms, turn your biceps toward the front of the mat, turn your toes under, and then push back into Gomukasana, downward facing dog. Push your hands down and forward to begin that long process of moving the weight of the pose more fully back into the legs. To get the weight more back into the legs, push again with your hands down and forward as you come up onto the balls of the feet. But as much as possible, try not to let the weight come forward. So when you lift your buttocks up, sometimes there's a tendency to shift the buttocks toward the hands. So proactively really push with those hands so that the weight stays back as you come up onto the balls of the feet. Lift your quadriceps and your inner thighs, roll over the balls of the feet, extend through the arches, extend through the heels, and feel whatever your calf situation is right now. And we'll do a lot to release the calf muscles in a little while. Then walk your hands back where they're in line with your feet. And just we're going to be working with some poses that require some wrist strength. So let's just stretch out the back of the wrist a little bit here with one hand in Padmasana. Extend from the thumb through the first finger. Take that hand out and put the other hand in Padmasana. Extend through the thumb and the, sorry, I said first, well, you can extend through all your fingers. But particularly extending that thumb and pushing down with your big toe on the thumb base joint is just very effective. Right. All right, then take your hands out of the way, place your hands on your hips, roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. And go ahead and get a strap. And this sequence is the first one that has Go Mukasana in it. Gomukasana, shoulder-wise, is actually a bit of a complicated pose, but we've kind of learned the component parts of it all from the beginning of this work. Okay. So, for instance, we've already learned what the upper arm does because we do Ushavasana. And so this, reach your right arm up, turn the bicep from the outside in, bend your elbow, and instead of your hand being on your head, or Gomukasana, that hand just goes on the shoulder blade. And you can actually experiment with putting it on the outer shoulder blade, the inner shoulder blade, middle shoulder blade. But see if you can, the more you can get it to the inner shoulder blade, obviously it's going to be easier to get the bottom arm. Okay. There are a lot of ways to work on this pose. I think we've worked with the strap the last couple of weeks. But you can also take your opposite hand, okay, put it just above your elbow, and then you can use your arm, your hand, to help push the arm back, and just see about wiggling your fingers a little bit further down on your shoulder. Then try and keep your head on straight also. All right, and then release that arm. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Lift your left arm up, and the bicep turns from the outside in. You have to do that even more when you bend the elbow. It's easier to do straight. Again, this is really, we learned this position first, really in Schultz. So it's just a little bit, so you can put your hand on the crown of the head just to feel it. Then you feel what happens, how you get more depth in the shoulder blade when you bring your fingers onto your shoulder blade. And then see about wiggling your fingers down your shoulder blade more, a little bit more elbow in, Amelia, and also Melinda. Then use your other hand, and you're not trying to push the elbow to the side. You're trying to push the elbow straight backward. See if you can wiggle your fingers down a little bit more and get some more opening in your armpits, or armpit in this particular case. All right, and then release. Bring your hands into Namaskar Asana. Extend from the elbows through the wrist bone, and from the wrist bone up through the fingers, particularly the ring finger. Okay, then keep pressing the heel of the hand together and come up into Urdhva Namaskar Asana. A little harder. Right? And here's that same turn of the biceps that we learned. Then we've already done several poses that have Paschima Namaskar Asana in it. And the Paschima Namaskar Asana, it's kind of interesting to think about this because Mr. Iyengar actually presents this pose very early on where both hands are behind your back. So in theory, when we just put one hand behind the back, it should be easier. But lengthen up through the armpits, roll those shoulder bones back. Okay? And even if the heel of your hand isn't touching, extend from the elbows through the wrist bones, extend the palms toward each other and extend up through the ring fingers. Okay? All right, then just keep your left hand where it is. Okay? And then put your hand flat on your back. And see, can you wiggle your left hand a little bit higher up on your back? Now, in doing that, your shoulder bone may have come forward. Okay? So lengthen up through the armpit again. Push your hand into your back as you roll your shoulder back. Maybe wiggle up a little bit more. Okay? Then take your strap. Hold it in your right opposite hand. Lift the arm up. Turn the bicep. And then if you need the strap to make the clasp behind your back, you've got it. Because I've got a little bit of a loop, but I'm actually regaining my ability to get closer with the fingers. So you can hold on. There are lots of things that you can do. You can just hold on to the strap and practice opening your armpits. You can also kind of let go of the strap for a little, not where it drops, but just let go, and then actively extend your fingers toward each other. Even if they don't move anywhere, that active extension should open the top armpit at least more. And another little trick what you can do with the strap is you can use your top hand and pull the bottom hand up with the strap. But you can also use your bottom arm and pull the fingers a little bit closer, and maybe you're just getting a tiny bit closer to Gomukasana arms. Then keep your left hand where it is, and then one more time, swing your right hand underneath. And see, is this Paschima Namaskar Asana perhaps a little bit better? Extend from the armpits, through the elbows, heel to the heel of the hand. And same thing on the second side. So keep your right hand where it is. You just have to flip the palm where it faces toward whatever is behind you. Another little trick is you can do is use your opposite hand and lift the stiff recalcitrant hand up a little bit more so it gets above. Sometimes it feels like for me it gets stuck on that kind of thick part of my thoracic spine. So I just move it up. And now lengthen through your side ribs. Press your hand into your back and roll your shoulder back. Do any of your shoulder blade actions that you can imagine. Shoulder blade in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body. And see if you can wiggle your fingers a little bit more. Then take your opposite strap, your strap in your opposite hand, reach the arm up. And again, if you need the strap, use it. If you don't need it, if you can make the clasp, great. And then even if you have the strap, you can extend your fingers toward each other. You can use the strap to pull the bottom arm up and the top hand down. See if you can get a little bit closer. Just get where you get. Then release and reach the arm all the way down for one more Paschima Namaskar Asana. Extend up from the armpits through the elbows. Sorry. up through the armpits, roll the shoulders back and extend from the elbows to the heel of the hand, and just give it a good little push and maybe just touch the heel of the hand together. All right, then release your hands, bend your knees, put your hands down on the floor, and then push back into your second downward facing dog of the day. Probably, unless you did some before class. So, and just observe the effect that Gomukasana arms has on your downward facing dog. Your palms feel more spread on the floor. Are the armpits more open? Is the thoracic spine more open? Is the weight coming more back into the legs? Should feel pretty good. All right, so then just bend your knees, come down, and sit in Vajrasana. And now you'll either need a second sticky mat rolled up, or a blanket rolled up, or some kind of hard object that you can mash your calves with. That can be a rolling pin. Gay's got a nice rolling pin. It can be a slanting plank if you have a slanting plank. And it can be another sticky mat, and anything that'll work. Okay, so I've got a slanting plank. So we're going to start off in Vajrasana, which is where your shins are together. Pull whatever you're mashing with all the way up to the top of the calf, the part of the calf that's closest to the knee. And then you're going to sit down on the hard implement. Extend through the shin bones. Try and let your bottom calf muscle be receptive to the hardness of whatever you're mashing with. Or even if it's a blanket, there's a little bit of hardness there. Okay. If you are working with a rolled blanket, you may not want to roll it all the way, because sometimes that can be too thick when it's right on top of your knee, and it can create kind of an over opening in the knee. So just be aware of that. And then move whatever you're mashing with to the middle of the calf. That's what I refer to as the belly of the calf, the thicker part of the calf. Then keep extending through your shin bones. Suck your outer ankles in. Suck your calves in.
This is also concrete.
All right, and then the third one, go to the edge bottom part of your calf, sort of where the calf ends and merges into the top part of the ankle and the bottom part of the shin bone. Yeah. That one often has a lot of tightness in it.
Right here. Right here.
So you don't have this right place. This is what.
Okay, so that is calf mashing, just sort of basic calf mashing. Then come forward onto your hands and your knees, spread your palms, turn your toes under, and push back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So there are those three positions: top calf, middle calf, lower calf. Bend your knees and come back down again. So a pose that is called Lolasana, first arm balancing pose, is, we're just going to do the legs right now. You cross your right shin on the left shin, and it's at the lower part of the calf. And so you're kind of crossing all right on that point where you just mashed the third point. Now, a lot of times this is taught with your feet pointing straight back. Okay, so you just can try that. But if you actually look at the pictures in the book, his feet are actually pointed off to the sides. So just see what happens in terms of the calf mashing experience when you angle your feet out on the opposite sides of you. Okay? And don't you feel a little bit more calf mashing intensity when you do that? And a little bit more stretch in the ankle. Vicky is nodding. So straight back gives you one thing. Angling your feet off to the side gives you another fun intensity of calf mashing. All right, then do the other side. So cross your left shin right over the bottom part of your calf.
that.
Yes.
So you can start off. I mean, I would say 90% of the time I've ever been taught this pose, the instruction has more been for the feet to go straight back. Yeah. The main people I have learned this from are people, Mary and Eddie, that they have when your feet flip out to the side, they call it the Dumbo ears. And when your feet like Dumbo's ears, help them fly. Because eventually in this pose, you do push down with your hands and lift yourself off the ground. But there's a lot going on, isn't there? Just in the leg position, right? It's just on that ankle there. All right, release. Place your hands on the floor again, turn your toes under, push back into downward facing dog. And you'll probably feel that Lolasana release helps get the heels down a little bit more toward the floor. All right, so first side again, this time we'll try and push up. Up to you whether your feet are off to the side or pointed back. You can do either one. And to get up, I've got bricks here. What you do is you push your feet down into the floor and just first try to lift your knees off the ground. Now your abdomen's going to draw back too, and you have to press down with your hands, right? But just press the feet down, the hands down, and lift up with your knees. You're using the really tall bricks, Nikki. Do be careful because they're a little wobbly. All right, then eventually you just pull your feet up toward, now lift your knees up, pull your feet up toward your buttocks. And if you still can't get up, you can just do a little bit of a momentum hop and get yourself to lift up off the ground just momentarily. All right, and you just put a little deposit in the bank and then do the same thing on the other side. Yeah, so at least you're working your legs. Yeah. But almost everyone, okay, I really actually haven't seen anyone who can't get the knees off the ground. Okay, so you push your feet down, draw the abdomen in, and lift your knees off the ground. Then can you push your feet down, lift your knees off the ground, lift your top foot up a little bit higher, and then just maybe do a little push off with your bottom foot. All right, that's Lolasana. All right, then one more, turn your toes under, push yourself back into downward facing dog, Padmasana. Walk your hands back toward your feet. And either have your buttocks back against the wall for balance, or you can sit in a chair. Either one will work. And you're going to bend your knees. Remember, we didn't do this pose a lot in these sequences, but there's a pose called Garudasana. If you bend your knees, lift your right leg up and cross your right leg over your left leg, and just put your right foot next to your left shin. Don't worry about hooking the foot behind. This is the leg position for Gomukasana when we sit down. Okay. And switch and bend your knees. Keep your right leg bent, lift and cross your left leg high on your thigh, and then just line up your left foot with your right outer calf. Now, when we do Gomukasana, you don't have to hook the foot, Gay. Just have the foot right by. Cliff, it's not Padmasana. You're crossing over, and the foot is on the outer. Now, if we were doing Garudasana, the top foot would hook behind the calf, but it's making it be a standing, what we're getting ready to do in Gomukasana. Okay. All right. So undo that leg. You might need some blanket, and you might need your bricks, and you'll probably need two blankets. Sorry, one blanket, two bricks, and a strap is what you'll need. Now, and that's my myriad injuries I'm dealing with right now. I have a bit of a groin injury, which is hindering my ability to do quite a few bent leg things. So I can't quite sit in full Gomukasana. Well, I got better at it yesterday, but I'm gonna try it. So you come onto your shins. Okay? And then just like you were doing when you were bending at the wall, you're going to swing. It's kind of the opposite. You're going to swing your left leg back behind your right leg. And when we were standing, we walked the right leg over the left leg. And then you walk yourself back.
That other knee.
Top knee, your right knee is going to come off the floor. Okay? And then you just see, can you sit upright, maybe getting your buttocks onto your heels. Or like me, you can fill up that space between the buttock and the heel. Now this is all that my own hip is giving me right now in this particular pose. Okay, but I just tried it. I'm going to come back out. I'm going to try the other side. So I'm going to swing my right leg back behind my left leg, just like you were doing when you're standing, and then you're going to sit back on your buttocks. So onto the buttocks and the heels. And if they don't touch, like mine right now is not anywhere near touching, very humbling. Then you fill up that space with like a bolster, or you can angle to sit on a block. Lots of things that you can do. And this is what I've got right now. Yeah. Okay, I actually got contact. Okay, so on this side, I am actually sitting in Gomukasana, though not a very good Gomukasana. Okay. If Gomukasana legs works for you, when we add the arms on the next round, go ahead and do it. Okay. I personally am not quite where I can do that. So I'm going to sit in Virasana as I do Gomukasana arms sitting down. Okay. So those of you who want to do Gomukasana, you're going to cross your right leg over your left leg, or your left leg behind your right leg, either one. But your right leg is going to be on top. All right. So with your right leg on top, you're going to take your right arm out, turn the thumb down, swing the arm way, way, way behind you, and put your right arm in the bottom arm of Gomukasana. Then lift your left arm up, turn the bicep from the outside in, and then bend your elbow and try and hook your fingers together on your back, or at least reach the fingers toward the back. Okay. Then release your arms, stretch out your legs, and do the opposite cross. Okay, so you might need to stretch your legs out into Tadandasana or do a little mini downward facing dog, but cross your legs so your left leg goes on top now. So now your left leg's on top, which means the left arm is going to be the bottom arm. Okay, so stretch your arm out, turn the thumb down, swing way, way, way around behind you, and bend your elbow and wiggle your hand a little bit higher up on your back. Okay. Try and lift up and be straight and look straight ahead. Push your hand into your back and roll your shoulder back. Reach your arm up, turn the bicep from the outside in, and then wiggle your fingers onto the floor. That is, Suzette, is a fine variation also. I actually find that even personally even harder than full Gomukasana, but it's a good one to do. Nice, Melinda. That looks good. Nice, Karen. These look good, everyone. All right, and then release. Extricate your legs. Put your hands on the floor and turn your toes under. And then push back into downward facing dog. All right. New pose that we do not do very often is a pose that's called Simhasana, and it means the lion. Now, Simhasana has the same base, well, Simhasana 1, that's what we're doing, has the same basic leg position as Lolasana, right? So we're going to go back and cross the right top shin over the bottom left shin. And you're going to sit up straight and tall. And then it's got a little breathing pattern. You know, the first thing that you do is you just put your hands on your thighs. And then push with your hands and roll your shoulders back. And then what you do is you stick your tongue out and make the sound of a lion, right? Like this. And do that 2 or 3 times. Really keep your arms straight though, Melinda. So really push down with your hands and roll those shoulders back and keep the elbows straight so the chest is really lifted. And then exhale, stick your tongue out and make a lion sound. There you go. If you have a cat, maybe the cat can come in and give you some pointers on your technique. Right, put your hand down and roll your shoulders back, and one more lion. It's pretty fun. He has switched across your legs, and we'll do lion the other way. He says that it does many things, like it can help with people who have stuttering and speech impediments. It can make the voice more melodious, but he even says it helps cure bad breath. Okay, so be a little more aware of that in the time of mask wearing. But I find I've had a lot of congestion just from allergies and kind of in the back of my throat lately. And I found actually in these weeks I've been working on Simhasana, it's really helped clear some of the congestion from the region of my throat. So I'm trying to do it a little bit more regularly. Okay, so second side, push your hands against each other, against the thighs, and roll those shoulders back so you really feel the chest get nice and lifted. And then you just open your mouth and stick your tongue out and make the lion. In the picture, his eyes are kind of crossed and looking toward each other. I also sometimes do it with my eyes closed and scrunched up a little bit. But the idea is you're kind of just trying to let the back of the throat kind of resonate and rumble with the lion sound. Kind of like we're all little lions in a zoo in our Zoom room right now. Okay, that was good. Isn't that fun? Spread your palms well, turn your toes under, and you're gonna push back and come into downward facing dog one more time. So somehow after that lion pose, it had a good effect on my dog. Breathe up the thoracic spine a little bit more. Have a little bit more stretch in those ankles. All righty, then bend your knees and come down again. Okay. Okay, so this is actually where Padmasana comes in. Okay. So again, if you can't do Padmasana, it's totally fine. Okay. Maybe you can do half Padmasana. Yeah. Maybe you can just work with your legs crossed. But I've got my legs crossed right now in Swastikasana. And I'm just going to keep them there. Right? I'm even going to sit up on a little bit of height. If you can do Padmasana, I'm not really planning on teaching it so much right now, but if you can do it, you're welcome to do it. And if you want to do half, you're welcome to do half. Okay. But the general idea is that your legs are externally rotating. Then he's got Parvatasana, which we did at the beginning of class. Stretch your arms out in front of you, interlace your fingers, turn your palms toward me, and reach your arms all the way up. Switch the cross of your legs. Sorry, not the cross of your legs, the cross of your arms. And then release, and then come down and switch your legs the opposite way. So maybe you're in Swastikasana, maybe you're in half Padmasana, maybe you're in full Padmasana. But everyone's in some kind of, if it's too much on the hip, if sitting in Virasana is also, it's fine. And this side, I think I can manage something approaching half Padmasana, so I'm ready to do that. All right, interlace your fingers, reach your arms up. Now, if you are in Padmasana or half Padmasana, you can really push those feet down into the thighs and energetically lift the ankles up, and you'll get even more release in the groin and more lift in the spine. Nice, Melinda, that looks good. And then release and do the second side with your arms. Reach your arms up.
What?
And then come down. Okay, stretch your legs out. And then get 2 bricks and a strap or 2 straps. So the next pose in this little fun sequence of poses is called Lolasana. It's also an arm balance, but you're in either Padmasana, half Padmasana, or Swastikasana. Hold on. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Somehow I was kicked out of the Zoom room momentarily. Right at this really exciting moment where we were getting ready to learn how to belt ourselves if we can't do full Padmasana. Okay, look, if you can't do full Padmasana, if you can do full Padmasana, you don't need any of this strap technique. Okay? Suppose you can do Swastikasana. Okay? Now what you're gonna do is you need 2 belts, okay? Or you can do 1. I'm gonna show you the 2 belts first, okay? But what you do is you just put 1 belt around your right knee and it should hook your foot, okay? So what the belt is doing is it's putting the foot and the knee in contact with each other. Bob's in Padmasana, he has no need of the strap because the feet and the thigh are already in contact with each other. And then you do these 2 straps, okay? If you're in half Padmasana, you can get by with just 1 strap and you strap the bottom foot that's not in Padmasana, okay? Then you're gonna take your 2 bricks, put them at your side, okay? Think lovingly back to Lolasana, similar kind of idea. You're just gonna push your down on your bricks and try and lift your knees up off the floor. And your buttocks will just come along pretty naturally. It's actually easier to get up in this pose than it is in Lolasana for me. Push down and you lift up and you come down.
Look.
There you go. That's looking good, everyone. Okay. You can repeat Lolasana, Karen, if this is too much for you. Okay, so you can just cross the ankles and push up. Okay. All right, that was good. Stretch your legs out. Then switch the cross of the legs the opposite way.
I don't know which one I do.
And maybe you can do half Padmasana. Maybe you can just do Swastikasana right now. But, you know, you just are knowing that Cholasana does require Padmasana, but even if you can't do Padmasana, you can have Tolasana in mind as you're doing Swastikasana and Tolasana. You just have to belt your feet because your feet aren't on top. Okay. Then you take your bricks, pull your knees up, draw your abdomen in, and then if you can, wiggle yourself back and forth with a little bit of motion. Great. There you go. That's it. Nice, Bob. Good. Nice, Kara. Karen, beautiful. Now the shape of the only thing I'll just add for those of you who heard it, the shape of the pose, this is a little harder to do when you're not in Padmasana, but the shape of the pose, the knees should come up higher than the buttocks. There's a tendency, this is much harder to do in Swastikasana, where you just are lifting everything up. But those of you who are in full Padmasana, you actually have to lift the knees up more than the buttocks. Yeah. So it's not like exactly you're on a flying carpet, flying through space. It's more that the knees are higher. Okay. All right. Good job. That was fun. Doing all these fun nifty poses. Okay. So we did lots of these things. We did Lolasana, Gomukasana, Savasana 1, Padmasana, Parvatasana, Tolasana. Now we just get to sit in a really fun pose called Virasana. So now you're in Virasana. So lots of little bent leg poses here. If you need anything to sit on, take it. I'm sitting on a brick right now. Not really needed. I could probably get by with just a little blanket set up, but here we are in Virasana. Now the next pose I'm just going to tell you is Supta Virasana. So you might, as you're sitting here in Virasana, you might think about, what will I need to be able to do Supta Virasana? Maybe nothing. Maybe you'll just be able to remove your brick and lie back flat on the floor. Maybe you're thinking, I think I would like to have a bolster. Okay. So just make your plan for what you want to do for Supta Virasana. I'm thinking a bolster and a blanket for my head is probably going to be good. And you're just going to use whatever support you need that you can comfortably. And if you can't do Supta Virasana with both legs, maybe you can do it with just one leg. I just need a tiny bit more height this morning. So what I'm going to do, I got my big bolster. But I could just use a little more height. So I'm going to take a folded blanket, put it underneath the bolster. Then I kind of stagger the bolster. What kind of? I do stagger the bolster. And then I'm going to get up and get a blanket for my head. So I'm going to be a little bit more comfortable on the toes.
Head under your back.
And there we go.
I need to have.
I did this last week. Oh, who was I helping? Oh, that's it, Monica. I was helping Monica get into this and getting comfortable last week. All right. So now, yeah, just that little bit of height. Now I can keep my knees down more readily. And remember, Supta Virasana, the back of the buttocks are moving toward the back of the knees. You can suck your outer ankles in, your outer calves in. I really have to say, just taking the time to put that blanket down, I can be in the pose now. Okay? It's still a lot of stretch for me. It's a lot of sensation. Okay? But I actually have some ability to deal with the intensity of the pose because I took that blanket. First, when I was trying to gut it out without the blanket, I really couldn't get anywhere where I could have enough quietude of mind to really stay in the pose for the amount of time that is needed to really feel the opening of the front groin that comes into Supta Virasana.
Yes.
So even if this is not your favorite pose in the world, and some people like Bob can do it very readily, it is worth finding some way, even if it's with a ton of props, to find a way to receive the benefit of this pose. It's really very good for tiredness in the legs. It's a great pose to help you digest your food. It's one of the few poses you could do kind of at night after you've eaten, getting ready for bed. It has a lot of other benefits that are just not coming to my mind right now. Sometimes also you just have to try it, come back out, come back in again.
Ever.
What?
All right, then go ahead and come up. And then stretch your legs out. Tadandasana or another little Gomukasana, whichever one you want. Okay, so that's Tadandasana, that's Supta Virasana. We got 3 or 4 more poses before we do the inversions at the end of class. Just didn't do more than I thought we would. One of them is Paryankasana, which comes next. Paryankasana is very similar to Virasana, except that you don't move your buttocks toward the back of the knees. You stay on your sitting bones. There are lots of ways to do it with support. I've still got my blanket here. So suppose you can't get all the way quite onto the ground in Virasana. You could sit on a blanket, put a block on the blanket, and then you could have another block for your head. And here you are, and that may or may not fit on the blanket. And here you are in a pose I call 2-brick Paryankasana. So the thighs are similar, but there's more of a release in the groin in terms of depth down to the floor, rather than the front groin elongation of Supta Virasana.
No, yeah. Where's my other brick? Where's my other brick?
I'm just telling you what's coming after this is Ushavasana. Okay, so as you're here in Paryankasana, you can think about Ushavasana preparation. Your shins are pressing into the floor. The brick is helping you tell your back what you're going to do. And then all you're going to do is just stand up on your shins. Maybe you want a little support, so if you aren't going to reach all the way back on your ankles, place your hands on your top of your buttocks, arch back. Now pretend you had that brick, and so it's lifting your chest up, and then can you reach back with your fingers, or maybe you can get all the way to the heel of the hand. the bolster. And just think Paryankasana. Your shins are pressing down, you've got the brick underneath your chest, that looks good, and then you just arch your head back and then sit down again. Push down with your hands, and that looks good, Amelia, if you can see that. Those are really good. Melinda, if you can, I personally prefer to build something up
Okay, yeah.
on the shins rather than doing the toes turned under one. The toes turned under one is an easy, let's say, fix because it raises the heels up and you can get to your heels easier because your heels are higher. But the thing that one doesn't have is the press of the shins, right? And that pressing of the shins down is super important, particularly if it's important for Ushavasana, but it becomes even more important when you think about, do I maybe want to work for Gombukasana one day? Okay. Because the shins have really got to learn how to press. And so that's why it could just be a blanket. Okay. Doesn't even have to be a bolster. But I would personally rather work with something on top of my shins to arch back if my heels aren't available. And then that actually helps me extend through the shin bones and close that gap between my ankle and the floor. Okay. So that's why I'm doing it that way. That's it, Amelia. Now, maybe you can, now it also doesn't mean, even if you're working with that, maybe you can get, it's not even that far. So after you've done 2 or 3, at least just put a deposit in the bank of of trying to reach back and get your heels without the support. All right, great job, everyone. Last pose before the inversions, it also comes from this sequence, is you're going to stand up. Reach your arms above your head into Namaskar Asana. And then you're going to just bend down and do an Utkatasana. And feel how light and released your groins are after all that bent leg work when we come into Utkatasana. I can just feel my groin really just descending straight down the diagonal toward the floor. Nice, Melinda, that looks really good. Good job, everyone. And straighten your legs up. And one more time, press your hands into Namaskar Asana, Namaskar Asana. Really lift up with your arms as you move your buttock flesh down, bend your knees, and really just feel how that groin descends. Getting a little stretch in the ankles also. And come all the way back up. One more downward facing dog, using this downward facing dog as a preparation for headstand, okay? So the other ones we were using more, you might say diagnostically, feeling the effect of each of the poses that we have been working on. Using it as kind of a template that you come back to. This one, think of it more in terms of preparation. You're getting your head used to being upside down. You're getting your heart used to being upside down. You also could support your head, being even more restful for the head. And if you have any kinds of blood pressure issues, it's good to do downward facing dog and Uttanasana before you try and do a handstand. Then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips, and then do that Uttanasana. That's not a bad idea, even if you don't have blood pressure issues. Just a gradual, we don't spend a lot of our life upside down, right? So it's a gradual progression, right? Learning, just like we learn to take the weight of the pose on our head more and more gradually, you just learn to be upside down gradually over time. Okay, so now if you aren't doing headstand, again, you've got several options. You can repeat downward facing dog. You can repeat standing forward bend. You could do the Prasarada Padmasana where your feet are out wide and you bring your head down to the floor. All of those things, and if you don't want to do any of that, you could also just lay back down on the bolster, have your legs out wide for Supta Baddha Padmasana. Okay. You can just wait for the Shirshasana moment and class to pass. Okay, if you need to hang your headstand like I do right now, you can hang your headstand. If you need the support of the wall, you can take the support of the wall. It's doing, again, whatever it is you do when the time for headstanding class rolls around. This particular sequence, those of you who are doing the variations in headstand, this particular sequence has part of a Shirshasana where you twist to the side, and it has Akapada Shirshasana where you bring one leg down to the floor. If for those of you who are having the inversion practice where you also have a variation practice, you can work on those variations. Those of you who don't, okay, you still have the feeling of those poses because you did that seated twist. And if you were to come down and do like a Supta Padangusthasana 1, those of you who are in the preparation poses, that would give you the feeling of Akapada Shirshasana. That looks good, Suzette, very strong. Good, Amelia. That looks pretty good, Gay. And just like you want to come out into Shirshasana, let's say with a gradual approach, you also, as you decide to come out of Shirshasana, when you've had enough of your Shirshasana for today, you also want to come down, ideally 2 legs at a time, drawing the abdomen in toward the spine. And then you rest in Adho Mukha Virasana, or Adho Mukha Svanasana, or Uttanasana. Okay. So there's a transition out of Shirshasana too. Now, if you're in hanging, Karen, you just rest your head on the wall for a little while, okay? Particularly if you're hanging without any support underneath your head. Okay? Sometimes when you come out of the hanging, you can feel a little bit dizzy or lightheaded. So you just want to take the time, just level everything out before you pop away from the wall. So when you're ready to come down, you come down ideally 2 legs at a time. Good, Chaya, to straighten that top leg a little bit more. All right, and then we're going to set up for the 2 blanket Chatush Padmasana, which is my new favorite pose. I have figured out a better way to set it up. You'll be happy to know.
Oh.
All right, so you've got your 2 blankets, which from shoulder, this is shoulder stand size of blankets. From shoulder stand size, and that's what it means in Iyengar yoga speech. You put the folded edge of the blanket. That's the part your neck is going to be on. You do that with 2 blankets. Okay, so you've got 2 half folded blankets for the back of the neck. Then you have 2 bricks for your feet. I would say mine are probably about 18 inches away from the blankets. But I have figured out this week a better way to get into the pose. Okay. The person who taught it to me had us get our feet on the bricks first. But I actually have decided it works better if you actually get your neck and your head set first. And then you might need to push your bricks out of the way a tiny bit, but your buttocks should be right next to the bricks. And so you have more ability actually to move the bricks easily than you do moving the neck setup. figured that out yesterday. And once you've got it set, then put your feet up on the bricks. Okay? Maybe you have a little sticky mat cover to pull onto, maybe you don't. So now your feet are up and lift your buttocks up. Hamstrings and buttocks go toward each other. You can either hold on to the sticky mat piece with your hands, or you can tuck your shoulders underneath you by interlacing your fingers. Ooh, you could even do, oh, that feels really good. Interlace your fingers underneath your buttocks. Then you can turn your thumbs down toward the floor, and that gives you a little bit of Sarvangasana 2 preparation. I just really, really, really like this setup because of how soft and relaxed it makes my neck and my brain feel and how open my chest gets. And then you can lower yourself down. We're going to do one more. Press your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. Your hamstrings and buttocks moving together are what support that opening of the front groin, and you maybe have a little more front groin opening because of the Supta Virasana we did. And interlace your fingers the opposite way if you're interlacing them. You can observe the softness in the brain. Observe the softness in the sides of the neck, and observe the softness in the throat. When you go into Satyabandha, when you go into shoulder stand, it really should feel this soft and not compressed, if possible. All right, and then come down, lower your buttocks down to the floor. So the next progression from there in terms of that softness of the head and the neck and the side is to do bolster Satyabandha. Okay. So can you, this is a bolster, you've got the 2 bricks for your feet, and then you may want to blanket roll for your neck. So vertical bolster, brick for your feet. Remembering that softness of supported Chatushpadasana. You have a question, Vicki? I make a roll. I put the roll, it's going to be for my neck. This entry is a little slightly different in some ways, because you have to get, but you start off on the bolster, and then you roll yourself off the bolster till the back of the head's on the floor. So that's just like Chatushpadasana. Instead of your shoulders being up on something here, now your shoulders ideally are down to the floor. If they didn't touch the floor, you could put something underneath them. Now, remember Brick Paryankasana and Ustrasana. Now you've got the bolster lifting that chest up in a very nice way. You've got the relaxed Jalandhara Bandha. When all of that's set,
Sit on the bolster.
you can stretch your legs out straight.
Okay, now lay back. No, lay back.
Let your eyes release into the back of your head.
Don't scoot back.
Your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. And clench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. And just take advantage of the lovely feeling of this pose. It's good for pretty much everything. It's in almost every restorative sequence. It's good for high and low blood pressure. Good for regulating thyroid, parathyroid. Good for asthma, allergies, anxiety. So if you can, find a way. Just spend 5 or so minutes on this pose every day around the time that you do Shirshasana. Sorry. You could add it in with your inversions. You can do it before shoulder stand. You can do it after shoulder stand. You can do it instead of shoulder stand. you're not doing shoulder stand, you can still do this pose. It has a lot of the same benefits. If you do have room in the way that you're set up to bend your knees and exit by sliding straight off toward your head side, that's optimal because it'll pull your buttock flesh away from the back and you can end up flat on your back. And sometimes this pose can cause a little bit of strain in the lower back, and that gives your lower back time to just relax. If you don't have that room, I don't right now because of the angle that I'm set up at. It is also fine to push your bolster away from you or even to roll to the side and put your bolster. And then, but rather than popping straight up, you want to spend a couple breaths with your knees bent and your back just relaxed on the floor. All right, we have got 7 minutes left. Okay, so that is time to do one more pose and Shavasana. Okay, so for your last pose, you can either do shoulder stand, chair shoulder stand, or legs up the wall pose. And then we'll spend about 4 minutes of that, depending on how quickly you set up. And then you'll come out of that and everyone will end in Shavasana, okay? So either full shoulder stand, setting it up as expeditiously as possible, chair shoulder stand, or legs up the wall pose with your buttocks flat on the floor or with your buttocks on the bolster. So those are your options.
Why don't you do legs up the wall?
Yeah.
Pick what option you're gonna do, and do it. They're all very similar. Chair shoulder stand and legs up the wall pose will be easiest for you to feel that soft jaw and Dharabandha experience that you hopefully felt in the 2 preceding poses. Sarvangasana, if you have the right setup, and if you don't feel that softness in Sarvangasana, it probably does mean that you need to change something in your setup. Maybe that's more blankets. Maybe that's doing the diagonal blanket setup or stagger, so I call stagger blanket. For me, with my own neck situation right now, doing the book fold blanket approach of shoulder stand is working nicely for me because it gives a little channel for my neck. That makes it feel more relaxed. Since I've got inversion class after this, and I know I'm going to do shoulder stand, but I'm just choosing to do legs up the wall pose right now. But whatever you've chosen, keep as much of that sense of facial relaxation as you can. Now, shoulder stand itself, obviously you have to press your upper arms down and use your hands to lift the back skin up, lifting your legs up toward the ceiling. All right, sometime in the next minute, you're going to transition from whatever final restorative pose you chose for yourself today to Shavasana, whatever mode of Shavasana that your body needs for today. That can be with the support on your thighs, with support underneath your thighs. It can be up on a bolster with head support. It can be just completely flat on the floor. It could be with your legs up on a chair. It could even be prone Shavasana if you wanted to do that. Just set up for your Shavasana. That's a nice chair shoulder stand, Gabe. That was good. Nice work with the legs, Melinda. Once you choose what you want to do, you come into Shavasana. Let your eyes release into the back of your head. Let your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. Clench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears buttoned. Completely relax the features of your face. Become quiet as hell. Anjali defines yoga as the practice of stilling the fluctuations of the mind. It goes on to say that when that happens, we come to dwell in that seat of our own true splendor. Be in that space of your true self. Abide there. And from that seat of your true self, from the space of your own true splendor, inhale. Consciously use your inhalations to infuse this awareness of your true self in every cell of your being, so that you can bring some awareness of the benefits of your yoga practice with you as you go about your work in the world. Place your hands on your rib cage and bend your knees. Roll over to your right side and use your hands to press yourself back up. Sit up straight and tall. Lift your chest well. Close your eyes and fold your palms together with your heart. In gratitude to the benefit you receive from your practice of yoga. In gratitude to the people you have the opportunity to learn and study and practice yoga with. And in gratitude to the lineage of Hatha Yoga itself, is practiced by BKS Iyengar, reaching back to the sages of India, and down through a line of teachers and students to you, here in the world, wherever you happen to be in the world, in the miracle of Zoom, in this space. All right, everyone. I have really enjoyed spending the last 14 months with you on Zoom.